All right. Welcome to Litscapes. Finally, here we are once more. It's been a while. So I decided to take a sort of summer break. I know a lot of you guys were asking, hey, RJ, when's the next Litscapes episode dropping? I've had a lot of work, we're back in class. I've had to prepare the yearly programs, and I've had a lot of work. Right? That's all you need to know. I haven't had a chance to really sit down and prepare these episodes as you deserve, but we have a lot of good stuff coming. The episode today is gonna be pretty special. In fact, I know I always say that, but today this episode is going to be, let's just say it has a special place in my heart. We have a special coming up also about the best books of the century so far, and later on we're gonna have a special guest. We're gonna have a special guest doing a last chapter episode, right? That's gonna be coming in a few weeks. If everything's going according to plan, then you should have just watched a few days ago the episode for a last chapter of Amor Towles, A Gentleman in Moscow. I did that on my own recently, and well, here we are with another recommendation from that very same friend, former teacher Antonio Saborit, who recommended A Gentleman in Moscow, recommended the author we're seeing today. But before I get to that, I want to do a quick promotional commercial, if you will. I guess by definition, right? It's gonna be promotional. A good friend of mine, colleague and co-worker, Jorge Avendaño, has just published his collection of short stories, his first collection of short stories. And I know it's in Spanish, but I'm not gonna read it in Spanish because then you'll all make fun of me. But it's under the shade of the Amapas, which apparently it's a tree endemic to northern Mexico, right? And so this book is a collection of short stories about the harsh reality, very violent, very brutal, going on in northern Mexico. So here it is. I got my signed copy. I don't know exactly. I don't think you'll be able to find it for now at your nearest bookstore, but it should make it soon. And if not, well, hit up good old Mr. George and get your copy. It's really good. Not exactly my type, but really good nonetheless. Yeah. I've been reading it for a bit, and so now let's get into our main feast of the day. Right now that we've had this quick entree, yeah. So there's always something particularly pleasant about discovering new things, right? Whether it's a new restaurant that quickly turns into your favorite spot for whatever, or a new bar that you've just discovered, or it could be that in your favorite restaurant you finally decide to order something new, right? I don't know if any of you have this restaurant that you go to and you always order the same thing, and then finally you decide to order something new and you discover that it's even better than what you could have imagined. Or you discover something. Spotify does this really well, right? Spotify, through its algorithms, It's recommendations. I know that everyone is always finding new artists to listen to. I know I am, and they're often pretty good, and I have found a lot of worthwhile musicians and music through Spotify's recommendations, and it's always fun. Like I said, it always feels nice to discover something new to listen to. Maybe those of you who are more, social media inclined, I imagine it's gotta be something like discovering a new influencer. I don't know. And following them and realizing that everything they post, for you it's relatable and you love it and they really speak to you and they become your favorite influencer. I don't know if maybe that's like a thing on the Instagram or the TikTok, right? That you get these suggestions and you start following them and it turns out they are your next big hit. Well, for those of us who are more literary inclined, it's readers, right? There is a very specific pleasure in discovering new readers, especially new writers. What am I saying, right? It is always special in discovering new readers, of course, as well, right? I hope that we're getting more and more viewers and more followers, more and more readers, people interested in exploring this vast world of literature. And in order to go deeper into it, we have this author today who is, I don't want to say completely obscure, no. But she has needed a recent she's been re-edited by the New York Times Review of Books. By the New York Review of Books. The New York Review of Books has been, re-releasing some of her work. And so she comes to me through a recommendation, again, by my good friend and former teacher, Antonio Saborit, who discovered her precisely through the New York Review of Books. And she's been otherworldly, to say the least. Why? There are many reasons, obviously, to read Eve Babitz. Right now, we're only going to explore just a handful of them. But I do want to just emphasize over and over the fact that Eve Babitz has, for me, turned into one of the best authors ever. I've been reading her for the past couple of months. This book, it's not even that long, but this book clocks in at like 200 and almost 40 pages. It's taken me a while, but it's because I've been wanting to, take my time with her. Like I haven't wanted to rush anything. I want this to last forever. And she has some other books that, of course, I'm going to be checking out. But this is the first one that I've come across. This is Eve's Hollywood by Eve Babitz. Here we go. Well, let's have the cover up here somewhere, please, Sarah. With an introduction by Holly Bruback. And so this is the latest latest version, the latest edition from the New York Review of Books. It was originally published in 1971, if I'm not mistaken. Am I mistaken? Let's see. Eve's Hollywood. I want to say 1971. 1974. All right. Yeah. Shame on me. She has some other work, but mainly what she writes is these short stories / personal essays about different experiences of her. But why read Eve Babitz? Well, first of all, we have this picture. Does everyone see this picture? This is Eve Babitz playing chess naked against Marcel Duchamp. She's only 20, right, in this picture. She's like 19 or 20. And you cannot talk about Eve Babitz without at some point somehow alluding to this picture. Well, yeah, that's quite the image, right? Quite the woman. And you see her and you may think, well, this is clearly just some random Hollywood model posing for this picture with this famous painter. No, it turns out it's not just some random Hollywood model. She does look that way. She certainly does look that way, right? Again, you can see in the cover for this book. We have it up here. For the cover, you can tell maybe, yeah, she's quite the babe, no doubt. But oh my God, she is so much more than that. And the way she writes is another reason to be reading her. Well, my second reason precisely is her style, her mastery of language. Last year, a student, oh man, how can I forget? How can I ever forget? A student introduced me to this term, which I have to admit became my word of the year of 2023, conserve. Right? And if maybe you all know what conserve means, but I found out and I was like, yeah, that's an awesome word. Well, this book is an entire conserve. And in fact, in one of the stories, Eve Babitz makes a point that she was called by some other women as Wonder Cunt. She was called one. I mean, imagine the nickname, right? Like who? And she's proud of it. You know, she's obviously proud of being called this Wonder Cunt. They had their reasons for calling her that, but what I'm saying now is that the entire book is this conserve, and she writes in the most inspired, inevitable way. And I was thinking, as I'm reading this, you know how what's his name from the MCU, Thanos, no, at the end, I think, and the Endgame movie, he snaps his fingers and he says, "I am inevitable." I think that's what he says, right? And that's Eve Babitz. It's not Thanos, it's Eve Babitz. Eve Babitz is the one that's inevitable. She writes that way. She writes in such a way that the first word of her story is the only possible word that could have led to the last, right? And everything in between is so intricately connected that she could not have written it in any other way, using any other words. You cannot omit anything, you cannot add anything. Everything is just perfect. She writes as though there were this direct line from a divine source of inspiration straight through her and onto her fingertips and onto the page, so that the lines that she's typing on the blank sheet of paper are lines that are preordained, right? Like it was destiny that made them appear on that page. That's how she writes, or at least that's how I feel when I'm reading her. But she writes just so magnificent that it feels as though nothing else matters. Nothing else matters, right? It's just her words. And the story might be crap. Well, actually, none of them are crap, but the stories could be better or worse, it doesn't matter. But the way she writes them, her mastery of of language, like I mentioned, is unparalleled. Unparalleled. And again, she's this seeming bimbo, but no. In fact, in this book, in one story, she writes, she's from Hollywood. She's this Hollywood native. And at one point she writes how back in her day, this is 1960s, 50s, 60s, back in her days, everyone with brains went east to New York, and everyone with the looks went west to Hollywood. Well, she could have gone either way. She could have easily gone either way, and in fact, she goes both ways. Even though she's from Hollywood, total LA native, and spent most of her life there. She spent some time in New York as well. Spent some time in Paris. Paris. We should also be doing an episode on authors in Paris, and in fact, I should start planning. We should have done it during the Olympics, but it's never too late. Nothing is ever too late for Paris, and nothing is ever bad with Eve Babitz. So number 2 is just the way she writes. 1 is that picture, and 2 is the way she writes. Inevitable. Number 3 is the city, the way she writes about LA. Now, I've had a sort of summer of Los Angeles, capital of the world, right? My city. Granted, I wasn't born there, I was raised there, and I have this very, very special love for Los Angeles, for San Fernando Valley in particular, but for everything Southern California. Right? The Valley, Burbank, Long Beach, Pasadena, Hollywood, of course, Sunset. And so this summer was a bit of a coincidence. I was watching BoJack Horseman on the Netflix. I watched a really good movie by Damien Chazelle, Babylon. What else? I read another novel that's also based in Hollywood. I don't want to mention it because it's gonna be for the next last chapter episode with a special guest. But I've been in contact with a lot of literature, series, film, Hollywood stuff about Los Angeles, about Hollywood, and it's been nice. It's been very nostalgic. The way, or these different works of fiction or otherwise, the way they reference, certain parts of the city, the streets, the landmarks, the history and the heritage of the place. It's been special. It's been a special summer in that sense. And this book, Eve's Hollywood, has been the best. Reading these stories about her high school days, her cruising up and down Sunset in Hollywood, the way she describes the city, the way she captures the essence, makes me feel like I'm there again. And granted, the book's from '74. She's writing about her experiences in the '50s and the '60s. Right? I was there throughout the '90s and early noughts. A huge difference. Nevertheless, I feel there. And this brings me to a comparison. Some of you may remember, and I hope all of you do, because I hope all of you have been, following Litscapes since the beginning, with our very first episode about Ursula Parrott's ex-wife. You may remember that, right? We did the last chapter episode of Ursula Parrott, her novel Ex-Wife, which immediately became one of my favorite novels of all time. And in fact, I'm going to start teaching it next month, along with The Great Gatsby. The way Parrott captures the essence and the spirit of New York Times in the 1920s, Eve Babitz does for LA in the 50s and 60s. And it's amazing. It's very transporting. You feel there. You feel, you know, the weather, that California heat, unbearable for some. For me, it's home. I cannot stand this high altitude weather here. Here our summers are. There are no summers. It's all rain. It rains every night. I'm surprised it's not raining right now. But in LA, man, you get the summer heat. And it's just, it's magnetic. It's mesmerizing. And that's what Eve Babitz does, right? So the way she writes about the city is, you know, she really captures it. She really puts you there. You really feel it. And if you're interested in reading about LA, start with Eve Babitz. Most def. So that's number 3. Number 4, these are, like I mentioned, these are short stories, these are personal essays, these are vignettes. They're very easy to read. Some of them are very short, some of them you read in, some of them literally you read in like 2 seconds. There's a few of them that are that short. Some of them are a little bit longer, but it's nice to, you know, for me, it's been my bedtime book, right? I go to bed and right before I fall asleep, I'll read a few pages from Eve's Hollywood, and it's that kind of perfect book. Or, you know, I'm waiting in line someplace and I'll pick up this book. But because they're short stories, they're very you know, they're comfortable, they're convenient, they're practical, and you get through them easily. So another reason to read Eve Babitz, and in particular Eve's Hollywood. And number 5, because she's relatively unknown. You know, she's not this best-selling famous author from the 20th century. She's not, you know, one of her best friends was, not maybe best friends, frenemy, let's say. One of her best frenemies was Joan Didion, whom we have up here also in this famous photo shoot with her Corvettes, with her Stingray Corvette, Joan Didion, right? I have to read some of Joan Didion. I have on my list My Year of Magical Thinking. My Year of Magical Thinking, I think it is. I'll tell you right now. Joan Didion, it's The Year of Magical Thinking. And so that's on my list. But the point is that it was Joan Didion who got Eve Babitz into the writing scene. She started publishing in the then nascent Rolling Stone magazine. That's where she got her start. I mean, imagine, not anyone gets their start, right, in Rolling freaking Stone magazine, right? So that says a lot about her. That's the kind of author she is. And yet she's not very popular. She's not very famous. She had a tragic life, at least towards the end. She had this horrible accident while driving. She drops her cigarette onto her highly flammable stockings. She goes up in flames. 3rd-degree burn on like half her body, and she was never the same again. You know, I think she stopped writing after that. She stopped giving interviews. You know, she just really changed. So there is that tragic aspect to her as well. So this is a fabulous life in a lot of ways. Man, she lived to the extreme. And these stories show it, right? So you know, she's one of those women who definitely enjoyed her sexuality, her body. She had as much physical pleasure as she could have mental and emotional and artistic. But she was sleeping around whenever she could. Makes no apologies for it. Slept with a lot of famous figures, right? A lot of famous figures like Harrison Ford and Jim Morrison. She dated Steve Martin. She's the woman who get this, in the Chelsea Hotel in New York, she introduced Frank Zappa to Salvador Dali. Freaking God, right? That's her. That's Eve Babitz. That's who we're reading today. Man, this is the life she led. My God, right? The things she experienced, all the drugs, all the parties. There is this line that I read recently that she says she's at this party. She's suggesting a sort of orgy, and then she gets up with this huge hangover the next morning and with a great story to write. I mean, imagine that. She gets up with a hangover, but she has the best, and she starts writing immediately. You know? I mean, she was like a full-time writer, but at the same time, a full-time Hollywood reveler, partygoer. Granted, the crack helped a lot. You know, I mean, she was on coke a lot of the time, and so could do it all. But yeah, the life she lived is just extraordinary and definitely worth checking out. So right now, what I want to do with you guys is read this very short story, and it's so good. I want Sarah. Let's please have the text somewhere here. I'm gonna share with you the screen. Let me just read very quickly. Not this. Not yet, Sarah. Not this text. This is the first chapter from of the book, and it's called Dedication. And the entire chapter is just a series of dedications. Normally, you would think the dedication page is just that, like one page, couple of sentences to, you know, my to the love of my life, to my children, to my editor, to you, the reader, to whomever, whatever. But this is an entire chapter of dedications, and the things she mentions, like, oh my God, right? And they're so great. To the Beverly Hills Hotel, to Andy Warhol and Paul Morrissey, who I'd do anything for if only they'd pay. To let's see which ones. And to Robert and Harry Deutsch for their breathtaking dashes into the breach. What a line, right? Their breathtaking dashes into the breach. What else is good? Let's see. And to the New York Times book review section and every critic in it. And she mentions, and to Jim Morrison running guns on Rimbaud's footsteps. They're buried in the same place. She dated Jim Morrison for a while. And to Marcel Duchamp, who beat me at his own game, right? The chess game, the image we just saw. And to time immemorial and the suspension of disbelief. Yeah, just check out that dedication, right? I dedicate this book to time immemorial and the suspension of disbelief. Fuck me. Fuck me. And to tempura. And to the Chateau Marmont, and to Marcel Proust, and to tea cakes, and chocolate rabbits, and puppies and Cliftons, and fried squash blossoms a la Ron Cooper, and to cheese pie and watercress, and to the land, the beach, the trees, the hills, the sky, the Bradbury Building, the Broadway Hollywood, and all the flowers in spring. And to freeways. She dedicates it to freeways. And to Orson Welles, the light of my life. This woman was rubbing elbows with everyone. Like anyone in Hollywood, she knew intimately. And to Dr. Boyd Cooper, gynecologist extraordinaire. All right. And to sour cream, and to the color green, and to tea cakes and white buns. It's just amazing. So I started reading this. I remember I started reading this book on the bus. I was on the way to visit my parents. And on the bus, I started reading this book, and just the dedication, I'm like, oh my God, no wonder my friend, right, Antonio Saborit, no wonder he was so hung up on Eve Babitz and why he recommended her so vehemently. He told me, you have to read Eve Babitz. And here I am reading Eve Babitz, and now I'm recommending her to you. And you cannot go through life without reading Eve Babitz. That's a crime against humanity. In fact, I want to live my life the way she writes. That's it. That is what I want out of life. So let me read for you this very quick chapter, all right? And we have the text up here because I want you following along, okay? This is important, so pay attention. The story is called, I'll read it once straight through and then we'll pick it apart, but it's a chef's kiss of a story. The whole thing, the whole book is a chef's kiss. But this story in particular, oh man, let's read it, shall we? Richard Green, the violin player. Richard Green, the bluegrass breakneck violin player, sounds the way the girl in the convertible looks when she runs her fingers underneath her honey tresses at a light to free her hair for a moment from its own weight. Sometimes a violin sounds spooky, and you wonder why anyone could play it. When Richard Green begins to play, you remember. The walls of Jericho could easily have been seduced down by the sound of the bow on Richard Green's strings, the tone. The light has changed. The girl is no longer anywhere, and you are stranded back in mortality as Richard Green retreats from the mic, his solo over. Fuck! Oh my God, I'm having a tachycardia here. Yeah, that's Eve Babitz. Okay, now I know. I'm losing my shit, and it's only 3 paragraphs, and you're probably thinking, what the fuck is wrong with you, RJ, right? What? It's just the story. It's just, a few lines. Yeah, but my God, the way she writes. This is, I like to think, and again, let's keep the text up here, Sarah. This is kind of like, the first thing that came to my mind is like, this is a narrative haiku. We have these 3 paragraphs that just sort of appeal to the senses so much and capture precisely this fleeting moment. Highly sensorial, very emotional, but it's just like that. It's there, like the girl in the convertible at the light, and then she's gone. Oh, it also reminded me, of what? I don't know if why do I, fool myself? Of course you haven't watched the movie. You should. American Graffiti. Watch it. It's George Lucas's second film. The first of Harrison Ford, where he came onto the scene. Harrison Ford went on to do, obviously, Han Solo, Indiana Jones, and all that stuff. American Graffiti. So in American Graffiti with Richard Dreyfuss, there's this scene where this blonde hottie pulls up onto a light in a 57 Ford Thunderbird. And Richard Dreyfuss, who's in I don't remember if he's in a cab or something, in the car next to her, he just looks at her and falls immediately in love, right? And spends the rest of the night. This is graduation night. He spends the rest of the night looking for her, anywhere, going through the streets looking for. And this is obviously also in Hollywood. in Los Angeles, American Graffiti. One of the best high school graduation movies of all time. Check it out, American Graffiti. And so that image reminded me of her. But check this out. The way he plays sounds the way the girl in the convertible looks when she runs her fingers underneath her honey tresses at a light to free her hair for a moment from its own weight. And notice that the girl is in capital letters, capital initials. The girl. This isn't just some girl. It's the girl in the convertible at the light, running her fingers through her hair. And even the walls of Jericho, the very walls of Jericho could easily have been seduced down. Not destroyed, not crumbled down, not torn down, not, bombed down. No, seduced. The very walls of Jericho could easily have been seduced down by this guy with his violin. And then suddenly we get, the last line of the haiku. We're back in reality. We're back in mortality. The light changes. The girl speeds away. And you're there thinking, what did I just witness? What did I just hear? What did I just see? And you're stranded back in mortality as Richard Green retreats from the mic, his solo over, and you're suddenly there alone thinking, now what? It's all downhill from here. And that's how I feel reading Eve Babitz. It's all downhill from here. What can I read next? Oh my God. There's nothing left to read. There is nothing left to read. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna read more Eve Babitz, that's for sure. But once it's over, she died a few years ago. I think she died in 2017. I'm gonna have to look up all her articles, all her essays. I'm gonna have a little altar here somewhere to Eve Babitz. And Ursula Parrott, of course, as well, yes. Ursula Parrott of Ex-Wife, but Eve Babitz. That's it. That's the story. Super simple, right? Just 3 paragraphs. That's it. Some other ones are considerably longer. You have the choke about this dance that the cholos, not the cholos, no, that's the modern word. No, that the pachucos used to dance, right? These Latinos in their suits that they used to dance in high school. The joke she writes about that one's great. The earthquake. She has this great story about Rosie, her cat, and how she died, and it's really sad, but it's also a great story. The Hollywood brand. Seriously, dude, anything you read, anything from here is gonna be more than enough. You could choose one randomly, and it's gonna change you. It's gonna change your life. Like there's no way you can read Eve Babitz and expect to be the same person once you're done with her. And I know you're thinking again, RJ, stop exaggerating. You're talking out of your ass. Well, you know what? Yeah, maybe I am. But who cares? Because this is what it's about, right? This is about letting literature into your life and stepping into its world and allowing it, giving it permission, nay, asking it to change you somehow. Otherwise, what's all this for? What would be the point? If we're reading anything and staying the same, then we might as well not read. Let's just keep on watching television or doom scrolling through the TikTok. No, we read to feel something, to experience something beyond ourselves and be different for it. Better? Hopefully, ideally, but not necessarily. Maybe worse off. Some things here are heartbreaking. And, well, maybe that's good too. Maybe a little heartbreak every now and then is necessary. But for me, some Eve Babitz every now and then is necessary. That's it, guys. Thank you. Thank you once again. Remember to get your copy of Jorge Avendaño's Beneath the Shade of the Amapas. What else? As always, if you've liked the episode, don't forget to subscribe, follow, hit the like button, share with everyone. Share Eve Babitz with everyone. My friend Antonio Saborit, he'll tell me sometimes, not about Eve Babitz, but sometimes he'll tell me sometimes you just want that book or that author to just be yours. And yeah, I agree. Sometimes there are some things that you don't want to share because it's just so meaningful and it came to you at such a fortuitous moment in life that you feel that it belongs to you, that it was meant for you. Maybe. But Eve Babitz, I want everyone to read her, and maybe I am crazy. Maybe I am, blowing a fuse and all this is hyperbole. But I don't think so. I really don't think so. And so, check her out. This has been Litscapes, Getting Lit with Eve Babitz. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I will see you next time. Keep it real, keep on reading.